He did what anyone would do. He protected his family. He protected his home. But instead of being praised, he was prosecuted. This is a story of how the law can turn on you, even when you're the victim. It happened on a rainy Tuesday night. John Carter had just finished watching the evening news. His wife and 2 children were upstairs, already asleep. He turned off the TV, turned out the lights, and headed to bed. It was supposed to be just another night. But sometime around 2 a.m., he was awakened, not by a dream, but by the sound of glass shattering. His heart jumped. At first, he thought maybe a window had blown open, but then he heard it. Footsteps. Inside the house. He reached for the drawer. Inside was a pistol, a legal one, registered, locked, trained for. John wasn't a violent man. He was just prepared. He crept down the stairs. Every step was slow, calculated. His wife remained asleep upstairs. His children were safe. For now. Then he saw him, a man dressed in black, moving quickly through the living room, face covered, gloves on, one hand in his bag, the other reaching toward a cabinet. John raised his voice. "Don't move." The man spun around. No hesitation. He lunged forward. One shot. That's all it took. The intruder fell. John stood frozen, chest pounding, gun still raised. Within minutes, the police arrived. The body was still on the floor. John explained everything. They nodded, took notes. They even patted him on the shoulder. But then something changed. Hours passed. And as the sun rose, so did the questions. Where exactly was the intruder standing? Did you warn him before shooting? Was he armed? And the most important one of all, was he retreating when you fired? John didn't understand. What difference did that make? The man was in his home, uninvited, threatening. And now, John was being questioned like a suspect. Later that afternoon, an officer approached him. He wasn't smiling anymore. "You're under arrest," he said. John blinked. For what? For manslaughter. The next 48 hours were a blur. He was fingerprinted, mugshot, thrown into a cell with men he never imagined he'd meet. His wife cried when she visited. His children asked where Daddy went. Bail was set, high enough to hurt, low enough to make him think they were still on his side. But they weren't. The prosecutor was ruthless. He stood in court and called John reckless. He said John had a choice. He could have run. He could have locked the door. He could have done anything but shoot. What they didn't mention was the state law. In this particular state, the law said you must retreat if possible, even in your own home, unless you can prove imminent threat of death or serious injury. You don't get to pull the trigger. And in this case, the security footage showed something chilling. The intruder had turned, just slightly, right before the shot was fired. The defense said it didn't matter. The prosecution said it changed everything. The media got involved. Some called John a hero. Others called him dangerous. His face was on every news channel. Homeowner shoots unarmed man. They never mentioned the break-in. They never mentioned the family upstairs. Just that one detail. The man he shot wasn't carrying a weapon. John's life unraveled. He lost his job. Clients pulled contracts. His children were bullied at school. His wife stopped going outside. And yet, through it all, he believed the system would see the truth. That was his first mistake. The trial began 6 months later. By then, John had spent over $60,000 in legal fees. He had mortgaged a house, sold his car, and borrowed from friends. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, protesters. Everyone had an opinion, but no one had all the facts. The prosecution called the intruder a troubled man. They said he had no violent history, that he was likely stealing to feed his family. John's lawyer pushed back. He played the 911 tape. He showed the bruises on John's wrists from the struggle. He showed the shattered glass, the footprints, the gloves, the bag full of stolen jewelry. Still, the law was the law, and the burden was on John to prove the man was going to harm him. After weeks of testimony, tears, and headlines, the jury finally reached a verdict. Not guilty. John broke down. His wife sobbed. He was free, but he wasn't the same. They moved shortly after, to another state, one with stronger stand-your-ground laws. But the trauma stayed. John doesn't sleep well anymore. He keeps the lights on. His children still flinch at loud noises. He won his case, but he lost everything else. And here's the part that should scare you. John's story isn't rare. Every year, hundreds of homeowners are arrested after defending themselves. Because the laws differ, state to state, country to country. In some places, you have a legal right to use force. In others, you're expected to run, even if it's your own home, even if your children are upstairs, even if your instincts say otherwise. The law doesn't care about instincts. It cares about technicalities. So what can you do? Know your laws. Study your rights. Because when the moment comes, you won't have time to Google it. Do you know what your local self-defense laws say? Can you use force? Do you have a duty to retreat? Are you sure? Because the law may not protect you, even when you're protecting yourself. If you believe more people should know the truth, if you believe what happened to John could happen to anyone, share this video. Subscribe for more stories they won't teach in school. And leave a comment below. Was justice served? Or did the law fail John Carter? The choice is yours. But the consequences could be everyone's.